Ever feel like, your career could use a bit of a refresh? But then the thought of starting over, like completely from scratch, just makes you want to crawl back into bed.
Huh. I think we've all been there.
Yeah. And today we're diving into a book that gets that feeling, that need for change. It's called Pivot, and it's all about navigating career changes, but not from zero. It's about using your existing skills and passions, those things you already have, as a springboard.
It's more common than people think, that feeling of there must be something more, even when on paper you're successful. Pivot dives into that feeling, providing a roadmap for that transition.
Okay, I'm already intrigued. So tell me, what's the heart of this roadmap? What's it all about?
The book centers around this idea of what the author calls high net growth. And no, it's not just about a bigger paycheck.
I like where this is going. So it's about finding work that truly fulfills you, both personally and professionally.
Exactly. It's about finding a career that truly lights you up.
Okay, I'm hooked.
Okay.
So how do we get there? How do we find that high net growth career?
Well, the book breaks down career change into a manageable 5-stage method. It's plant, scan, pilot, launch, and lead.
Okay, I'm already feeling less overwhelmed and more like I'm embarking on a journey. So let's unpack these stages, starting with plant. What's the core idea here?
Plant is all about self-discovery. It encourages you to identify, really pinpoint your core values, what truly motivates you, what gets you up in the morning. And equally important, understand your strengths, those things you naturally excel at. The book really stresses that the strongest career pivots come from leveraging what's already working in your life.
So it's about recognizing those existing assets and finding ways to apply them in a new context, not about starting from scratch.
Exactly. And part of that is understanding your own risk tolerance. Are you someone who thrives on big leaps, or do you prefer those smaller, calculated steps? There's no right or wrong answer here. It's about knowing yourself.
I think that's so important because it's easy to get caught up comparing ourselves, right?
Yeah.
We see someone else take a leap and think, well, I should be able to do that too.
Yeah,
But we don't always consider if that aligns with our own comfort levels.
absolutely. And finally, this stage encourages you to define your one-year vision. Not a rigid plan, but a clear intention for where you'd like to be professionally in the near future.
So less rigid
Yeah.
5-year plan and more like, what's my next adventure? I like it.
Precisely. Now, speaking of adventures, the book shares this interesting story about a guy named Justin who really embodies this plant stage. He was working in his family's real estate business, successful on paper,
Right.
but feeling totally unfulfilled.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. Achieving outward success, but still yearning for something more.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Justin realized he needed a change, not just for his career, but for his own well-being. So he decided to explore meditation more seriously, like really seriously. He ended up spending time at a monastery in Thailand.
Wow. Okay, so that's a pretty big step.
Right. And through this experience, he realized his true passions were rooted in community development and promoting health and wellness.
Wow, that's quite a pivot. So did he just completely abandon the family business to pursue these new passions?
Well, that's the interesting part. He didn't. See, going through that process of self-discovery allowed him to see his family business with fresh eyes. He realized he could blend his passion for community development with his family's business by focusing on projects with a positive social impact.
That's a perfect example of how self-reflection can uncover unexpected opportunities within your existing field. It's not always about jumping ship. Sometimes it's about changing course.
Exactly. Justin's story just highlights how crucial it is to align your career with your values and passions, even if it means getting creative within your current field.
I love that. Okay, so we've planted ourselves, identified our values, strengths, and risk tolerance. We've even got our one-year vision in mind. What's next on this pivot journey?
That's where SCAM comes in. Think of yourself as an explorer charting a new territory. Or maybe even a detective, gathering clues.
Ooh, a mystery. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more about this scan stage.
So this stage is all about gathering information, yeah. Exploring those potential paths, but not in a frantic resume blasting way. It's more about, like the book calls it, investigative listening.
Investigative listening. Okay, now you've really got my attention.
It's about shifting your perspective on conversations, seeing them as opportunities, right? Opportunities to uncover hidden possibilities. Instead of going in with that set agenda, like a checklist, you listen. You listen for themes, for patterns, for unspoken needs, like a detective, like I was saying, gathering clues.
So it's less about selling yourself, less about Here's what I'm good at, hire me.
Hmm.
And more about a genuine curiosity, more about, tell me about your work, what are your challenges?
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. It's about listening for those aha moments, those sparks of insight that can send you in unexpected directions. And these conversations, they can be with anyone in your network, really. New connections, people outside your field, you name it.
That actually takes the pressure off, I think. It's less about, those formal networking events and more about genuine curiosity and connection.
Exactly. You just never know what you might uncover. There's this one story in the book, right? This person ends up stumbling upon their dream career, their dream job, just by chatting with someone at, get this, a friend's party. Turned out their skills in event planning totally transferable to this whole other industry.
It's funny how life works like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Reminds me of that Steve Jobs quote, something about you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward.
Right.
Sometimes you just got to be open to the journey, trust that the right opportunities will show up.
That's the spirit of pivot. It's about embracing exploration, opening yourself up to possibility.
Okay, so you've planted yourself, you're scanning your environment. What's next?
Well, I guess it's time to take action. But I imagine this is where things might feel a little, scary.
It definitely can be, which is why the next stage is so important. It's called pilot, and it's all about dipping your toes in the water before, diving headfirst.
Okay, tell me more about these pilots. How do they actually work?
A pilot is basically a low-risk experiment. Think about it like this. It could be taking a class to learn a new skill, starting a side project that's, related to a potential pivot, or even, and this is cool, a travel pilot, just to gain a fresh perspective.
Hold on, a travel pilot? What's that, like a working vacation but with a purpose?
You got it. Let's say you're considering a career in, I don't know, sustainable living.
Hmm.
Maybe you spend a week volunteering on an organic farm to get some firsthand experience. Or if, say, you're thinking about becoming a digital nomad, try working remotely from a different city for a month just to see how it feels. I can see how those experiences would be so valuable. It's one thing to read about a potential career path, but to actually experience it, even in a small way, that's huge.
Exactly. And the thing is, sometimes these pilots, they can lead to those unexpected insights. Like the book tells this fascinating story, get this, about Dr. Seuss. Yeah, that Dr. Seuss.
Wait, Dr. Seuss used piloting in his career. How so?
Oh, he was all about it. He experimented with different writing styles, different mediums for years before he found his niche. Did you know he even worked in advertising to, pay the bills, all while he honed his craft?
Really? I had no idea. It's kind of comforting, to realize that even someone as successful as Dr. Seuss had to try different things, figure things out along the way.
It just goes to show, right? Most successful careers, they're built on trial and error. It's about embracing those experiments and, crucially, learning from each one. Now, let's imagine you've run a few pilots and one really takes off. What happens next?
That's where the last two stages come in, right? Launch and lead. Sounds like it's time to, buckle up and go for it.
It is. Launch is about, taking decisive action, but it's not about leaping into the void, right? It's about using everything you've learned, all that groundwork you laid in those first stages. The book offers some great advice, actually, on evaluating your pilots, managing those, let's be honest, inevitable feelings of fear and uncertainty that come up, and importantly, navigating those conversations with the people who might be, affected by this career change.
So that could be anything from like talking to your family about the changes to, maybe negotiating a new role within your current company.
Yeah, exactly. It's about being thoughtful, being prepared, being clear about your intentions, but also, being a good listener, hearing out any concerns, finding those win-win solutions, making sure this move forward works for everyone involved.
So good communication is really key during this launch phase.
100%. And then once you've launched that pivot, the final stage, lead, that's about, embracing this new mindset. It's about stepping into a leadership role, even if it's just, leading your own career path, but with more intention.
I love that. It's like, it's not just a career change, it's a whole mindset shift,
Mm.
right? And it actually brings me back to something you mentioned earlier, this idea of high net growth.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like achieving that is kind of the ultimate goal of a successful pivot. Wouldn't you say?
Totally. High net growth. It's about creating a career that truly aligns, right? Aligns with your values, your strengths, your desire to make a difference. Like we were saying, it's not just about a bigger paycheck. It's about feeling energized and fulfilled by your work
Yeah.
and, feeling like you're making a meaningful impact, all while you're continuously learning, continuously growing.
It's about finding that sweet spot, I think, where your passions and your talents, they just kind of intersect with a true sense of purpose.
You nailed it. And that sense of purpose, it's powerful. It can really fuel you through those, inevitable challenges, bumps in the road that come with, well, with any career change, really.
This deep dive has been so insightful, honestly. We've covered so much ground from those 5 stages of pivot, plant, scan, pilot, launch, and lead to the power of investigative listening and the importance of embracing, a mindset of exploration and prioritizing that high net growth. As we wrap up, any final thoughts for our listeners out there who might be, starting their own pivot journey?
You know, just remember this. It's not about finding the perfect job that doesn't exist. It's about creating a career, building a work life that feels aligned, right? Aligned with who you are at your core and what you really want to achieve in the world. It's about seeing your career as this ongoing journey, this process of self-discovery and growth. And it's about, learning to embrace change, to see those shifts, those transitions as opportunities to create a more fulfilling and meaningful work life.
I love that. It's about taking control, right? Taking the reins of your own career path, designing a work life that truly lights you up. And you know what? If this deep dive resonated, if you're ready to explore your own pivot, definitely check out the book. There's even more in there, more insights, strategies, real-life stories to guide you along the way. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And here's to embracing change, to creating careers that truly matter.